Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells. This is episode 154 on Magic is Real with my friend Inertia DeWitt. Inertia and I, in this episode, explore giving ourselves room to fall apart, compassionate breakups, growing up in a pro-curiosity and wonder family. What's that like? And how PTSD shows up in our bodies and when we least expect it. And also why magic is real. We talk about spirituality and chakras, and there's also a trigger warning for this episode. Inertia and I mention eating disorders, suicidal ideation, and sexual assault. So fair warning, we don't get into explicit details or anything, but they were mentioned just to let you know. It's a great episode. I love Inertia. She is a delight. She is a bright, magical human being, and I'm grateful to know her. Before we get to the episode, though, I just wanted to check in real quick. Since we last spoke, and I shared about this on Instagram over at Yumi Empathy, I went to the hospital. No, I went to the doctor, I should say. That's more accurate. I went to the doctor because for the last month, basically, I've had a tight chest and sort of pangs and sharp pains in my heart. And, you know, it's funny because part of me, I guess it went a whole month because part of me was thinking it's anxiety, right? We're living in a pandemic. It's anxious times. It's weird times. I'm doing a lot. You know, it's probably anxiety, right? And I certainly do have anxiety. And that should be addressed, right? And that there's one part of me that was like, it's just anxiety. You're okay. You're fine. And maybe a piece of it is like, stop being so whiny. You know, stop being such a burden to the people in your life. Even though I'm not really a burden to the people in my life, but that's the limiting belief. That's the hate, right? That's me telling myself I'm a burden, which is not true. And then the other side of it is like, hey, you've got insurance. You deserve care and nourishment. And you deserve to be looked at, right? You know, these are important things for all of us to recognize. Like, if something's going on, it's maybe it's important to check it out sometimes. So I did. I went, and it turns out I have some abnormalities in my heart. It's called, the initial result was called intraventricular conduction delay. And there's not much on the internet about this, but I don't think I'm dying or anything. But it's an abnormality, and I'm going to see in a couple of days, on Wednesday, actually, this week, I'm going to see a cardiologist to do some more tests, probably to check it out, and you know, we'll have more information from there. But I'm grateful that I went to the doctor, and I feel proud of myself for going, because I think certainly 10 years ago, me would have not gone and would have been just like, shrugging it off or whatever. Right. And, I guess I'll give that to you. Like, you deserve to be nourished. You deserve to be looked at. It's important. So, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling tightness in your chest, like, especially when it comes to heart stuff, get that stuff checked out. It's important. Even though maybe it's just anxiety, maybe it's something else, but get it checked out. You're worthy of being seen. Okay. And so I'm wearing this heart monitor that's on my chest for the next 2 weeks. it'll be another week after today or so. And that's been weird as well. The first couple of nights having it on, I was so focused on my breathing that I like drifted out into like moments of like not being focused on my breathing. And then I thought, I'm not breathing. So I didn't sleep very well the first few nights, but it's getting a little better, even though I am tired of the feeling of tightness and, pain in my chest. That is not something I necessarily want to live with, forever. So hopefully they can figure it out. Anyways, wanted to give you a little update there. And the other update is Yumi Empathy and myself and Feely Human is on Patreon at patreon.com/feelyhuman. That's patreon.com/feelyhuman. It's a way to support me on an ongoing basis, and you get you get bonus episodes, one bonus episode a month, as well as like bonus or not just bonus, just monthly Zoom hangs with me and other pals, other Feely humans like yourself, and other fun rewards. So if you have a few bucks a month you want to support me with, that would be wonderful. If not, that's cool too. But if you're curious, go to patreon.com/feelyhuman. And that link is also in the show notes for this episode. And a free way to support the show is to leave a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. I know I mention it all the time, but if you haven't done it, I know there's thousands of you listening, okay? And there are only maybe 115 reviews. Come on, we can do better percentages than that. I know I'm being a broken record and maybe being a little of a bully, but it helps. It truly does help. So if you haven't left a rating and review in Apple Podcasts, please do. I love you for doing that. So thank you. And hope you're safe. Hope you're finding some healing and connection that you deserve. Hopefully your holiday was okay. And I guess the last thing I'll say is there's 20% off in the shop right now. If you use the code Feely20, if you go to feelyhuman.co/shop, or just go to feelyhuman.co and search and find the shop there, you can get 20% off through the end of the year. So if you're looking for a cute little shirt or a pin and some stickers, there's not much there, but if you want to support me and you like the stuff, consider getting some stuff. It's 20% off through the end of the year. Use code Feely20 at feelyhuman.co. Okay, that's enough of the plugs. Thank you for listening, Feely humans. I so cherish you. I cherish your heart. I'm grateful, so deeply grateful for you guys. You make this show worth doing, so thank you. And let's get into this episode. Let's get into this chat with my friend Inertia DeWitt on Magic is Real. Magic, real, magic.
You and me, empathy, la la la, la 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 la. You, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being Feely humans. Yumi Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I am thrilled to be here with therapist, resilience builder, and self-awareness and spirituality deepener, Inertia DeWitt. Hello, Inertia.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you too. What an intro.
I love coming up with my little intros. They're fun.
I'm flattered.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you here. Let's the thing we do, Inertia, to start off the show is we always do an emotional check-in. How are you feeling?
I am feeling full, like full and like I could move in any direction emotionally, for better or worse. Yeah.
Sure. So a little wavery, a little kind of tipping both ways, kind of I'm like moving my body in kind of like a wavery, like dancey kind of that one weird character, on the side of the road with the floppy arms, that guy.
Right. Yeah. I'm responding,
There's a lot to respond to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, at times it is. Yesterday, I was like really feeling good. I was feeling so good. I've been having a hard time the last like 6 weeks or so, kind of in and out of pretty hard depressive kind of states. And the outs of that are wonderful. And so yesterday was one of those days where I was just like, yes, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And I went outside. I took a long walk. I was like outside almost all day. I got to read and like catch up with a couple friends. And then, and I fell asleep feeling good. And then today I woke up like crying. So, yeah, I did a little self-care this morning, just being with myself and allowing myself to just be sad, even though I wasn't entirely, I know why, and I also don't know why. So that was an interesting process, just trying to like let it be and tap into some Abraham Hicks, which usually helps me kind of recenter and realign with what I feel is my higher power source, higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, then made me really tired because I was tired from processing all those emotions, and then took a little nap prior to jumping on with you. But I feel much more aligned right now. So
that's good. Yeah. I very much relate, and I'd imagine many of our listeners can relate to this feeling right now of that unwavering, of that sort of really swiftly vacillating ups and downs that are happening right now in our hearts and our noggins, and just the feeling of being a little bit untethered,
Yeah.
I think now more than ever, finding those things, whether it's in music or in yoga, whatever it may, reading, writing, mindfulness, whatever it may be, spirituality, finding the things that can be that anchor for us for a moment and allow us to just be, just be in the things, be in the feelings,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, as you kind of introduced me, I this is what I practice and teach. And so I practice it. I really hold myself to trying to implement what I know.
Do you ever feel a pressure because you teach it that you have to like be this beacon of perfection in the thing?
Yes, sometimes. Yeah. I think I give myself a lot of room to fall apart though. And I remember that, regulating or being resilient or being human, like it is about experiencing a lot of different complex and nuanced expressions or emotions, thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also, coming from a depth psychotherapy perspective, which is all about like integrating the shadow. And,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
it's not always, I'm resilient and happy and, creative and all of that. Like, no, for me, it also includes like going to the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. You mentioned before, Inertia, this, you in this space and kind of maybe having an inkling or an understanding or an insight of like, why am I feeling this way? But also a lot of it, like not feeling, there's like this disparate thing going on where I'm feeling sad and there are some things that can contribute to that. And these things I can pinpoint, but there's probably a lot of other things that I don't know that are, I don't know why they're contributing to this, or I don't know what they are completely. Like how, like for you as someone in this space and just for your own mental health, how important is it to kind of have a bit of that, let me just back up. I feel like when I'm in I have major depressive disorder. So I have moments of really darkness, right? And what helps me sometimes is the curiosity, right? Is to try to figure out what's going on, is to try to figure out what the source of this is. But also there's another piece of it that I just need to allow it to just kind of be and allow it to be a mystery, because sometimes you're just not going to know. And I think that's an important piece of it. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. I'm not sure if you're like into astrology or not, but I'm a Virgo rising, and I really like to know how things work and how to perfect them and like figure stuff out. And I'm also a Gemini. So like I have a lot of that energy of like, let me figure out all the perspectives of this thing and then on top of that, try to perfect it. I have a lot of those inclinations, and those are gifts. And at the same time, when I find myself leaning too heavily into this idea of I'm going to fix it or I'm going to figure it out, even maybe I'm not even going to fix it, but I'm going to figure it out. I find that I'm not leaving space for God or the divine or mystery. And that to me is like a beautiful humility that we need to embrace more. And I try to, remember or, remind myself of. Actually, this morning, I was journaling. I was reflecting on a period of time when I was like in my teens and like early 20s, where I would actually just wake up naturally like, oh, what's going to happen today? Like, I have no idea what's going to happen today. What's going to unfold, And I was like, yeah, like I want that again. I want to wake up really tuned into this, like the mystery of life and the awe of it and the curiosity that comes from being like kind of excited about anticipating something interesting to unfold. And that's, I think, maybe more, if I'm putting it astrologically, that's a bit more of my Gemini, side coming forward of like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to find out. Like, it's, it can be fun and mysterious. And I enjoy that. I actually really enjoy that. And I'm not sure that everybody has that same relationship to the unknown. I think sometimes unknown is really terrifying, and I can relate to that. I mean, I definitely have a lot of like, wow, I don't know, and this is new territory that makes me uneasy. It makes me scared. It makes me anxious. It brings up a lot of other things too, and I think I'm remembering that a lot these days. That like, oh right, like I don't know. It's okay for me to not know, and it can also be okay for me to land in a place of the unknown or not knowing, that's tough or challenging.
No, that's so well said. Because it is a tricky thing, because the mindset of knowing and curiosity and seeking is a good one. Like there's like so much value there, right?
Yeah.
We should always be sort of seeking and learning and knowing, but
You can't help it. We're always making meaning, like we're
exactly.
always trying to organize our experience and make meaning out of it or understanding out of it. That
Yeah.
you can't stop doing that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I would say that like I'll just say for me, like I can get caught in the like too much of it. I'll just get caught in this like, oh, I need to understand. Otherwise, like A, B, C is not going to happen. Like, and I think that
Right.
that's not okay. And it's precisely like this is a recurring theme on this show, and it's precisely why I always sort of couch this show in, like I mentioned, the pale blue dot, this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. I go back to Carl Sagan and his pale blue dot sort of message.
Mhm.
There is so much that we don't know, right?
Right.
And that is a
So much.
scary thing, right? But that's
Yeah.
also such a
Wonders.
an opportunity for learning about ourselves and the world and each other in ways that we don't know yet,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, I'm much more leaning into this habit of I got to figure things out, and if I don't figure things out, I'm failing, or I won't
Mm,
have what I want, or yeah, some story like that. I'm very much leaning into that, lately. Um,
yeah.
so it's like a constant reminder right now of like it's okay that you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what's going to happen next, you don't really even know what's happening right now. So my reminder to myself has been just like stay really close to the present moment. And I know that every time I say that it sounds like really cliche, but it's legit. Like I don't know what the
It's
future.
everything.
Right, like the future is full of infinite possibilities. We might think we know what's going to happen, but we really don't. We really
Yeah.
don't, and it's unfolding gradually every moment. And so, if I can stay closer to the present moment for me, and if I can stay closer to my own tenderness, like what feels really tender right now, my own humanity right now, and move slower. I feel like I'm just moving in more alignment with like, okay, what does my spirit need right now? What does it want right now? Okay, you know what? It actually just wants to lay here and cry and cover my head.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. That's good. Let me do that. And it's like, all right, what does it want to do next? It wants to eat breakfast. Let me actually listen to that. I've been having a hard time staying um, in a healthy rhythm. I think with my eating, like my appetite's thrown off. So
Mm,
when I feel like, oh, wait a minute, no, there's an actual impulse there, like it's happening right now. Can you follow that? Instead of getting engulfed in the dread and the guilt, grief that's present, that then doesn't really want me to eat that grief and the dread. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do. I do. Lately I've not been feeling right in my body, in my own body. Like I don't know if you know this, but and this is not related to it, but like I have like in my my late teens and into my mid 20s, I struggle with anorexia, and lately I am someone also, and I don't struggle still, but I am someone who's had lots of weird physical stuff in my life, and I think a lot of it I'd imagine is due to the fact that I hurt my body so deeply through this life, basically an illness that almost killed me,
Mm.
and lately I've had like my I've been talking about it on Instagram a bit, but like my I've been having hormonal issues. My testosterone is turning into estrogen, and I have like all these weird abnormalities that the doctors can't really understand what's going on. And lately I've been feeling these immense periods of lethargy and exhaustion that just like I'm not used to, and it's really strange. And I'm like, 10 minutes before I got into this call, Inertia, I was Googling, terrible idea, don't do this, listeners. I was Googling like, what are the symptoms of thyroid cancer? And like all these like things that like I'm feeling weird in my body, and I don't know what's going on. And so like, that's when it's hard to like be present, right? Because when you're not feeling anchored and safe and comfortable in your own body, you're like, all right, I'm gonna do the Googling. I'm gonna,
Right.
scroll the shit out of Instagram, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that part of us that's like, we need to know, I need to figure it out. And we think that we're in control. And, again, it's like, we can't help but want to know and want to figure it out. And sometimes we then reach for, stories either in our own minds or externally in, on the Google search or whatever for the answer that actually ends up reflecting our fears, usually.
Right. Yes.
It exacerbates it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really out to like confirm our own worst fears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the vulnerability of that space, moving from that space, acting from that space,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I'm not sure about this or diagnosed in any formal way, but I definitely have a sort of lean towards the binge eating range of eating disorder, and that creates its own set of problems. And I don't know, I'm just sharing because this is what's on my mind.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Recently, I've known about the like anti-candida diet or, the candida cleanse and stuff for a long time. But a friend of mine recently shared with me her experience with her eating disorder and doing an anti-candida cleanse to help rid the yeast overgrowth that can become like a little entity feeding off of your gut. So I was kind of on board with like, okay, I'm going to make this change in my health lifestyle, right? Not just like my diet, but like, I'm going to approach this because I know that my body's telling me, yeah, you should do this. And then I got really thrown off from like everything because I ended up going through a breakup, or I'm in the process of a breakup. And that like stirred up so much. Just talk about like destabilization. That was super disorienting and still is. I'm still in the midst of it, I think. And so I woke up today kind of like looking at the junk food that was like by my bed. I'm just like, okay, like it's time to commit to that change. It's not helping, waking up feeling like shit is not helping,
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to and are going through that breakup. That can't be easy.
Yeah, it's really it was really kind of an abrupt thing that is the aftershocks, the after waves, like, are just hitting me, especially because I'm trying to figure out, like, given the state of the world right now, this beautiful blue dot, and what I know about, or what I think I know about, how human beings, are most supported. Like, what I think I know is that we do best when we're in connection, and that, ripping away an attachment source or figure can be more traumatic than necessary. And like some other things that I really believe in and I think about as far as just like my own sense of compassion and forgiveness, like, I don't know that I want to have this like hard cutoff with this person. And at the same time, I know that means that I'm going to be vulnerable to kind of, pick at the scab, you know what I mean? Like, be a little bit wounded in it. And so I'm navigating that, trying to make, again, decisions in the moment, day by day, about, do I actually want to talk to this person right now? Do I want to see them? Or do I actually just need a little bit of space? Like, what is coming up for me in the present moment? it's a very different way, I think, than I've ever moved through a breakup. So it's challenging.
Hmm. I mean, it feels very honoring. Like, it feels very self-honoring. Like, you in that moment realizing, hey, like, a cutoff in this way doesn't feel right. And so how do we navigate that in a way that's, mutually beneficial, that's mutually honoring, that still has its boundaries? That's beautiful, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like the right thing to do for me at this point in my life.
Sure.
And I'm proud of that, actually. I'm proud of like trying it.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
Inertia, can you tell me a little bit about, like, I'm always deeply curious about how, sort of like how people came to be who they are, right? Like, I have lots of like wild stories from childhood and my youth and childhood traumas and various things that like have contributed to the person I am now. So I'm curious about your childhood or young adulthood. I want to hear from you about like a moment or two or a memory that kind of sticks out in your noggin as being an important part of your self-actualization or journey or story, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be big S story, just like moments that stick out in your mind as being these crucial, identity moments. Anything you want to share that comes up?
Yeah. I have a tendency to, excuse me, I have a tendency to go to the traumas.
Me too.
Yeah. And those moments, there are moments that are super impactful as far as, character building or, the development of my own identity and the multidimensionality of that. But, I feel like it's important to maybe share that, I grew up in a blended family. So my parents, my biological parents have 3 kids together. So I'm the middle of that set of children. And my mom has 2 daughters, prior to us. But we all grew up in the same house. They're my sisters. They're white. I'm mixed race. And so we're blended, not only just, in terms of like what that means in general, right? Like mixed families, but also like in our racial or ethnic presentation.
Yeah.
Which in the 90s, I was born in 87. So like in the 90s, like that was not really something I witnessed outside of my family. And
where did you grow up?
Sacramento, California.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's an important thing about my childhood or my family upbringing that I don't necessarily usually share, but is important. Definitely impactful in ways that I'm still kind of learning. My mom has mental health challenges. I think, she's deals with persistent depression and grew up with a lot of trauma in her household. Runs very anxious. And my mom is also a midwife and like brought in a world of kind of mystery and magic. Through her, I learned about and was introduced to astrology and like sort of all the somewhat like occult sort of things that has been very influential to me.
Your mom's a healer.
Yeah, she is. all of us were born at home, and
Same.
I'm the fourth out of her 5 kids, and I was born at home very fast. It was a very fast birth, and the midwife didn't make it. So my parents delivered me. These feel like important stories. I don't know. I grew up vegetarian. I've never ate meat my entire life.
Wow.
Which is like, it's like these things that seem kind of, I don't know, like on trend a little bit today. That wasn't that way when I was a kid. It wasn't cool to have like naturally curly hair and like, be vegetarian. It was not cool back then. Or to be into astrology or like chakras or crystals and stuff like that. And then my dad, my dad is a very kind of eccentric person, his character. But I always knew like, yeah, my dad's kind of different, but I didn't know until I was like 16 that he actually is diagnosed schizophrenic or schizoaffective, actually. So that means that he has schizophrenia and a mood disorder. So, and a lot of, I think my earlier childhood, I don't know exactly when, I can't tell when he actually got on medication, but most of my life was, or childhood, I should say, he was unmedicated. So that's something I'm very much still unpacking. It's hard sometimes, and I'm very close to my dad, especially as a kid. I was much more close to him than my mom, and we bonded over kind of, intellectual stuff, like figuring stuff out, that's something that we talk about different theories and ideas, and he would, nurture my, my intellect. And I really value that, and I'm super grateful for it. And there's also a complexity to it because of the sometimes really jarring, abrupt, unexpected, extreme changes or reactions emotionally, actually from both of them or with both of them. But it is kind of like you didn't know what you were going to get. And I think that, or you did know, and you're just in anticipation of like when that, lecture, the 5-hour lecture, the day-long lecture is going to come, or, I don't know, there's a lot of other things, but like, that unease is something that I lived with. And my siblings and I talk about just the sort of anticipation of like something shitty is going to happen. And you don't know exactly when or what is going to be. Like that stance, that embodied sort of stance, is something I've spent the majority of my adult life unlearning and rewiring. And I guess I would say, there are other, like so many other moments as far as my life, I guess, in general. But one thing that has always been really impactful for me, even as a kid, was dancing. And I ended up going to school when I was in college. I studied dance, and then I ended up getting my first master's in dance.
Wow.
And that has really shaped the way I view the world in another way, outside of sort of my influence from my dad, I would say. It's given me my own access to my own like research and language and knowingness, because it's embodied, as opposed to all the intellectual, as much as dance is very intellectual, I will say, at least in the way I learned it. So that would be another really pivotal piece of my story. And in that master's program, I actually, very beginning of the second semester of this program, I found out that I was dealing with PTSD, and went to therapy and did all this treatment for it. And because at the time I was like, I'm living like my best life. Like I'm in grad school. Like it's beautiful. I'm like, everything is great, but why am I so fucked up right now? Like I didn't have a name for it at the time, but I was very dissociated. I was just walking around like a zombie. Like I went to school in Arizona. And so it's like, it's sunny in January, like the it's bright and shiny. And I was just like a zombie. Like it felt like a movie and all this stuff. And I knew something was off when I was like skipping school to like drink by myself. I'm like, this is out of character. What's going on? So ended up going to see the school a psychiatrist, and she immediately assessed me for PTSD and was like, yeah, so this is real, and here's some options for you. And at that point I decided, okay, I know enough about the body and about how we can heal ourselves. I know that that's possible. And so that was a catalyst for me to really actually start studying psychology. I mean, I was doing it in a sort of indirect way, but that's what, sort of the pivotal moment that led me towards eventually becoming a therapist.
Thank you for sharing all that. There's a lot to unpack there. I would love to explore a little bit. The PTSD, how did that come into being? And what did you say to that therapist to get her to think like, oh my gosh, yeah, you certainly have this diagnosis? Like how do you think about that diagnosis today in terms of like your healing, and what is it connected to you, or how is it connected to you in your memory from growing up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there were some specific things that were happening in the moment that would be meet the criteria, right, for the diagnosis, as far as the dissociative kind of feelings of not being really in my body, having such a difficult time focusing. Like I'm in grad school, right? So you're reading, writing. And I would read these articles and I would get to the end of them and I'd be like, I have no idea what I just read. Like I wasn't retaining the information. So the difficulty processing and recollecting was absolutely part of it that she recognized. Nightmares, difficulty sleeping, sometimes oversleeping. Those are like the main ones that kind of stand out to me at this point. But then there's also the history. So to be diagnosed with PTSD, like you have to have even either experienced or been exposed to something life-threatening. And so when I went in and she's talking to me about PTSD, I'm like, what? Like, I didn't go to war. Like, what do you like?
Right.
I don't know. I didn't know anything at the time about really what that, meant. So some of my history also includes, how old was I when I started that program? I don't remember. Well, when I was 18, I was sexually assaulted, and that was a big factor in the diagnosis. Most of the catalyst, I think, for that was because of that assault. But there's one other factor that happened, which was 6 months after I had been raped. One of my dearest friends that I had known since kindergarten, was like a brother to me, was murdered.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was an intense year. So I never really I really didn't talk about either of those things, to be honest. And that created some dysfunction
for
me. There were certain things that also happened after that, it was sort of like a building up. So at some point, maybe a couple years after that, I couldn't be intimate with people. Like I would have like a very startling, like panic attack response. Like even if somebody was just like sitting close to me and like holding my hand or like wanting to give me a kiss, like I'd start hyperventilating and like have to get away.
Right.
And so, at the time for school, like I wasn't in a relationship, so I wasn't dealing with those things, but they were still present. It just wasn't being triggered,
Yeah.
So those are some of the main factors. And then as far as childhood, what I discovered actually in therapy, so I did EMDR, a treatment for PTSD with EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
I'm doing that right now.
Oh, are you?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like really intense and powerful.
Yeah. It's exhausting, but it's going well. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I did that for a year, and in that process realized, some of these, what led me to even sort of being in the position, I think, of, I'm not saying that it like I'm to blame or whatever for being assaulted, but I'm a part of that story, and part of it was connected to certain things that I learned growing up, and part of that was that that I don't deserve respect. One of the beliefs that I held on to was I don't deserve respect because I had been hit by my parents in public before. I'd been slapped across the face at school by a student, when I was in 7th grade. Like there's these moments that really just, I took in this message like, oh, I don't deserve respect. I don't matter. And that in the process of doing EMDR, it started with those earlier memories of trauma that were somehow tied, at least in my brain, somehow tied, right? Everything's connected. So
yeah.
It was very intense. I feel for you. I'm going through the process again, actually doing EMDR again now, as well as a different approach, which is called havening, based on the same kind of neuroscience, but super intense.
Yeah.
It's super intense. It's exhausting. And I was in a grad program trying to work on a thesis, just
That's too much.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Wow.
But really exciting actually at the same time, because I was realizing the changes, like I was seeing myself get better. And I was getting the answers of why, how did this happen sort of thing. Like I was starting to understand, all of this stuff is connected, and here's how for my life. Which feels good, even though those truths are hard. It's like, okay, all right, well now I know kind of what I'm working with,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, for me, like when you said inertia, like you're trying to maybe unlearn some of those deep limiting beliefs that you don't deserve respect or that you don't matter. I mean, that's precisely why I've been going to therapy, is because I have these deep beliefs that I don't deserve love and that I deserve to be in pain. Mm-hmm. These deep beliefs that are connected to these early experiences and early traumas. But, it has been enlightening and difficult and exhausting, but, deeply purposeful too. Like I've learned a lot through the process, and I think I'm getting better at saying to myself, when those things pop up, saying to myself, is that true? Right? Mm-hmm. Is this true? I don't know if it is, and asking that question and or counteracting it in some way. I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. That's such a good question to integrate. These negative beliefs that, well, as I'm learning now as a therapist, we all have them, and some of us have, ones that just hit harder, but we all have access to all of them,
Yeah.
And I'm also learning that it is possible to change them. I think my experience actually in therapy at that time was such strong proof actually that wow, I don't have to live with that debilitating sense of disrespect or whatever. And I'm not saying it's totally gone. It's still stuff I'm working on.
Yeah.
It was so drastic at that time that I was like, whoa, I've been dissociated my whole life, and now I'm back in my body. Whoa, it was profound, to have that sense of wow, okay, something really radical just happened, and I'm healing. I'm not done, but I'm healing, and I have connection to my own power in a way that I really had never felt before for a sustained period of time.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's another connection as far as like to my childhood, like the dissociation, that was a survival mechanism that I had available to me.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful
So,
for
yeah.
it,
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I'm relating so hard. Like it is, we do learn those survival mechanisms in childhood, especially when we feel unsafe, right? Or when we feel like we have to protect ourselves or protect our siblings, right? Or guard, or as you put it, like you're basically preparing for the thing that keeps happening that you need to like, prepare mentally and physically even, like, and then we bring these things into our adulthood and we're like, what are these things? These aren't, yeah, they
Yeah,
maybe serve me for a time, but they're not tools any longer. They're just bringing me down.
right. They start to, yeah, right. When we change environments, they start to feel like it's almost like I felt like my body was working against me. I felt like it's kind of like why does my body hate me? Like what is going on? Like, and yeah, I think that's part of it. Like I was in Arizona, I was in this whole new environment. I was doing something I really loved and also was doing a lot of somatic work that brought up a lot of shit, that wasn't being contained or processed thoroughly. That wasn't the right context for it, really. But ultimately, like I was in a place to heal it. And so it was all coming up and that was good. Overall, that was good. But yeah, it's hard to kind of make sense of like, well, why am I doing this anyway? Like it doesn't work. It's not really helpful, but it was at some point. And yeah, we all can go to the dissociative place. We can go to the fight place. We can go to the runaway place. That's part of our human design.
Yeah.
And it's sad to me to think that like so many of us go through our early years having to drop into the dissociative place because that's our last resort. That means we don't feel like we have any other options, like that breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. And
mine too.
That's part of what makes me passionate about helping people reconnect to their bodies in a way where they can remember, wait, no, we do have other options. We don't have to drop into the dissociative place, which for me and many, this is universal, I think, tends to be connected with not only depression, but, suicidal ideation. And that was another factor as far as, symptoms and stuff that I dealt with before and still deal with from time to time.
Same.
It goes hand in hand with that state. It's a neurological state,
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was always a like the last resort choice, like, and not wanting to die, but wanting to put an end to this feeling. And that, and for me, I'll just speak for me. For me, it was just like, I don't know what else to do, or I don't have the answers or the tools yet, or whatever it may be. But yeah, you're right. Like I still have, dark moments where I think about it, and it's always kind of scary, but I also know that it's a place I've been, and it's a place I can get through because I have before,
Right. And what you're naming right now, I so relate to it. It's something that I used quite a bit in my 20s, and sometimes share with clients that like, okay, when we're in that place, and for me, I don't actually have a desire to kill myself. It's just that I have intrusive thoughts about hurting myself or dying. It's very intrusive. And it's sometimes relentless. And because I can witness them and I recognize like, I don't really want that. That's not really what I think or feel like. I've read it as a metaphor, okay, well, the part of me wants to die. What is that part that wants to die? What is that part that wants to be transformed? What is that part that's ready to change?
And wow. That's beautiful.
I feel like that's what
that.
they're doing, right? Like, just for sure. Like, it has been really helpful as just a different way of framing, It's kind of like asking, is this true?
Yeah. I love that. So before we get into kind of like some of the work you're doing, I need to share that, or I feel compelled to share that my one of my brothers. So I have 3 siblings, an older sister and 2 younger brothers. The third born, my brother Tannen, has schizoaffective disorder, and he wasn't diagnosed until maybe, gosh, how old is he? I'm 39, so he's 35, 36, around there. He might have been diagnosed in his late 20s, something
Yeah,
like that.
that's
And
like a typical onset around that age. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I hear. And, he was a guest on this show too, and he very vulnerably and courageously shared kind of, because he still has pretty deep, like, and intense moments where he feels, he's being sort of controlled by the government and other beliefs like that, and it's been a journey of allowing him to be in his truth, and also like being a loving, kind, supportive person in his life, and balancing those two things, especially when his reality is so different from mine in moments, right? And it's just hard. And I wonder, for you and your relationship with your father, like, how has that piece been for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
don't know that many people who have a loved one who's dealing with that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
It's been pretty confusing to be honest, because my dad's experience of the schizophrenia part is not kind of textbook. It's not. Yeah, there's something a little bit different about it, which I think is a blessing in a way, because he is able to kind of join the collective reality. He becomes pretty fixated on he's very much focused on sort of, it's not religious, but it's sort of religious concepts, and he's kind of like, that's like all he thinks about. In a way, he presents almost more like autism, where he's like really like, this is like all that I'm thinking about, like
Right.
watch all these videos, and it's like that's all he wants to really talk about. And which, for somebody like me who's like interested in those subjects and like metaphysics and stuff like that, it can be really interesting because he's got a lot to say or share. But at the same time, it's hard to have a what I would say, maybe more emotional relationship. I don't have experiences, there's very few, I could probably name on one hand, moments that I can recall of like a father-daughter dynamic, of like, and that's hard. That's really hard. It's also really difficult sometimes to talk about or like introduce my dad in this way of like, do I share with people that he has a mental illness? Do I not? He doesn't really present in this typical way of like having a disorder. Does it matter if people know, like all of these.
Right. Yeah.
I really circle around.
Has he been able to hold a job?
Yeah. So he was working up until I was 12. He worked for Tower Records, and he worked in the databasing department for like years, almost 20 years.
Wow.
Or something like that. Yeah, it was like 19 years. And so he's opened stores. I mean, he's kind of like, he's good with computers and stuff like that. Like he was able to hold a job a long time, and before that even. But then after, he struggled to hold a job, but ended up reaching out and finding support through the VA, because he was he was in the Marines for a brief period. and actually was honorably discharged because of the mental illness. And so in some kind of beautifully bizarre way, he never knew that he had access to resources through the VA until he was laid off. And so he's been on 100% disability ever since then, since I was about 16, which is when he shared with me that he has this disorder. So, yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's like, okay, he was able to hold a job, and that's where, I have a lot of like processing around like disillusionment of like, well, what was real? Was he okay or was he not okay? Was our relationship okay or was it not? Was that healthy? Was it not? Like, could I trust what he said or was that a delusion? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that's been going on, which, now that I'm like saying this, I'm realizing that, a lot of that was actually triggered during my therapy process when I was, that I was talking about before. Because his health, he has other health issues that were exacerbated, and that just kind of brought up a lot of questions around like, what can I trust, I guess?
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I do. I was curious, and I think about it because doing this show and sharing very vulnerable stories and creating that space for others, I keep coming back to this idea that we need to believe the people in our lives. Like, we need to believe people, like, period. And we need to this is maybe my perspective. My perspective is that like, I want to believe people. Like, I want, like, if they're telling me that this is their reality or this is how they see the world, or if they are sharing a story, I want to say, like, my heart says, like, I want to believe you. Like, I want to say yes to this, and I know that there's like nuance in that. Like, if someone is saying something that is, deeply offensive or upsetting, I need to like call that out. Right. But I like when I'm talking about my brother or even like, women who come out again, who have the courage, right, to come out and say like, look, I was sexually assaulted, or I was taken advantage of in this space, right? Like, we need to just believe people on those terms. And I know there's some gray to that, but my heart says believe,
Yeah. I'm with you. I think there's like, maybe it kind of ties back into what we started talking about, this like desire to like figure things out, know the truth, fix things. I think when we come from that perspective and we're listening to people, we're already missing, like, it's just a different way of relating, right? If we're trying to listen, like, well, are they telling the truth? Are they not? Is this real? Is this a delusion? Is this, whatever, right? Are they manipulating?
Yes.
Whatever. But when we come from a place of humanity and like, empathy, it's really a different consciousness that we're relating then, where it doesn't actually matter if I agree. It doesn't matter if anyone's right or wrong. It's about being present with somebody and honoring that this is what they're saying and doing in this moment. And I have the choice to be like, either connect with them at that point or that level or not. Like, it sort of takes, I feel like when I'm able to do that, what you're naming right now, just like hear like, okay, yeah, I believe what you're saying is real for you. It doesn't make what's real for me any different. It doesn't have to compete. And I think when we come from this place of like trying to figure it out or fix it, there's an sort of underlying competition almost. If that makes sense.
It's like your truth negates my truth.
Right. There's only one ultimate truth, and that's not true. Like, multiple truths exist, right? Multiple perspectives exist, multiple realities exist, and who's to say that for your brother, like that's not real? Like, that's his real experience. Who's to say that my reality is more or less real than someone else's? Like, I don't know. I think we're all a bit delusional, to be honest, if we think that there's a singular truth there
Yeah.
on that level,
Yeah, I just think there's just so much more empathy and compassion and opportunity for learning and healing when we're open in that way, right? Because
Yeah.
you're right. You're totally right. When you come to it with this, maybe it's unconscious, but this thing in our heads that says like, oh, are they speaking the truth? Are they not? We're not really tapping into the presence of the moment and the beauty of that connection.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking ourselves out of it. And I think that's that I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm so with you. Yeah. I'm much more interested in tuning into like, okay, well, how does that make me feel as I'm hearing you share your
Yes.
story?
Yes.
Which
Absolutely.
is way different than, can I figure this out? Are you deceiving me? Or, it's a mental thing versus the heart thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So like speaking of the heart thing, one of the things that you're interested in and you study and you're curious about is the spirituality of humanity, of what's going on here. Can you tell me a little bit about like your relationship with what that is and how that maybe connects with your own mental health?
Gosh, yeah. Where do I start?
Well, I guess let's start here. Like what got you curious about, spirituality and, learning about chakras and crystals and those types of things?
Right. I mean, it's my parents. I think,
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think as far as, where it started this life, I believe that I've had many lives, and probably always had a connection with this, but, in this go round, my parents definitely were the first introduction to that. I grew up with a bunch of astrology books around the house and books about myths and stuff like that. And that was sort of just kind of part of our sort of family vernacular, The chakra system, so my parents, let me say this, my parents were involved in a kind of Eastern philosophy as far as, it wasn't yoga, but similar to that in terms of like understanding consciousness and moving towards the path of enlightenment. They meditated. My dad was, is and was an avid meditator. So I was always kind of like aware of that. He didn't really share too much about it when I was a kid, but I knew that it was like important, and he was a big influence. A lot of our conversations that I value, or I think back on fondly, were always around metaphysics. So, talking about consciousness and the way things work, and the unknown is always mysterious and magical, at least for me. And I think as a kid of the 90s, I'm a millennial through and through. Like I grew up on magic, I grew up on it. So
I'm just going to interrupt real quick because I think it's amazing that you had that. I'm shaking my head here because I grew up in an evangelical Christian, like very sort of like boxes and narrow-minded thinking, sort of world. And I'm just in awe of hearing that you were raised in this sort of open your eyes, like look at the universe, like let's be curious world. It's, I'm envious. Thank
you. Yeah, I've learned as an adult actually how valuable that was, and I have so much gratitude for it now that I did not have really as a kid. I didn't know.
Sure.
I was, I felt like a weirdo growing up, so
yeah,
I was an outsider kind of. So I'm very grateful for it now. It's something that, brings a tear to my eye, honestly, just knowing like, okay, I talk to friends who share like a kind of similar experience as you're sharing now, or, something kind of similar to that. And I just think, wow, I'm so glad that I have parents that I can talk to about like real shit. And, like they support me in that, and they're not afraid of that.
Yeah. But to your point, and I think it's a very important one, is what you experienced wasn't the norm, right? And I'd imagine that had to have felt isolating, and you felt like you were the weird one. Whereas, I was just another white middle-class family in Southern California, believing in Jesus Christ, right? Like there was, a million of those.
Yeah, and there's a sense of belonging and safety, I think, that comes with that, or I imagine that comes with that, and that
Totally.
I don't know. I know it's complex, but like I kind of envy that.
Yeah,
that
I hear
feeling,
that.
because I felt like we were these little misfits, and you know, yeah. So as much as there was room for that, there was also like, it felt like, and it feels like even now, some hypocrisy, of like, okay, we believe in these things, but what are you doing with it?
Interesting.
You're still like abusive. Just like plainly.
Right.
But I think as an adult, I'm seeing a lot of different perspectives now and change now. And, my desire so basically the impression that I got as a kid when I was like, so the whole situation of the sexual assault and then my friend being murdered put me in it was a dissociative state, but in the dissociative state, there's also a lot of, insight, and, you're detached from sort of reality in this way where you can see a big picture. You can have these kind of questions circle about the meaning of life and existential, stuff. And so I already had a knack for that. But when all that happened, I just started to realize like, okay, this life is really weird, like there's something going on here. And
so weird.
Yeah. Like, my friend was just murdered, but somehow I'm thinking about the people who did that and what led them to do that. And like, they must have been really hurting, like I had that perspective of like, well, what's right and wrong? What's good and bad? Like my friend was involved in selling drugs. Like, did he deserve it? Like all of these questions that I'm just like, no, I started to shift out of that thinking of like good, bad, right, wrong. And that was a really big awakening moment in my life that led me to studying the chakras, because I felt like something's happening with me. I don't know what it is. And my dad handed me a book about the chakra system, and that has been really impactful for me over the years. But I have to say, a lot of my life has been, I would say up until maybe, what year is it? Like maybe 5 years ago, a lot of that stuff, all of the sort of like, esoteric, metaphysical, whatever stuff, has kind of been like, oh yeah, I believe it, but I'm a little bit afraid to believe it. I believe it. Not that I'm afraid, but like, how do I say this? Like, oh, that's kind of cool and kind of exciting and like, oh, wow. But there's this separation between like living in the truth of it, living with the knowledge and like using it.
One takes effort and responsibility and commitment and discomfort, and the other, is, well, let's make another analogy. Like one is just putting up a black square on your Instagram, right? Like one is just like saying like, this is a thing I'm doing, and one is actually doing the work, right?
Right. And so like I could read, I read a bunch of like, for example, astrology stuff or chakra stuff. And it was kind of like, okay, like this is cool. Like I want that. I want to understand this stuff, or I want to like be aligned, but it was always sort of outside of me. It felt a bit outside of me. Like other people had the knowledge and other people had the enlightenment, and I didn't really know how to access it. Like at, 18, 19, I had this clarity somehow of like, well, if we're here on this planet I think that the only thing that I'm really here to do is like gain enlightenment. Like that feels like the way out, and it feels very lofty and kind of, I don't know, serious sometimes, but like that was the, I guess the first place as far as like, integrating spirituality. And then it was many years of this sort of almost, I don't want to say peripheral. It was more than that, but definitely like this, I'm reading the books, I'm watching the videos, I'm trying these things out, I'm doing I'm doing like rituals and stuff like that. But it's almost like, oh, it's magic, and magic isn't really real. It's just kind of fun to think it is, and so, and I would have readings and I would do stuff like that. And I knew it was real for other, like there were certain people that I would like work with who clearly were tapped into something,
Yeah.
And I always wanted to feel that way. And I guess like 5 years ago, I was going through, a lot of stuff, and I just made this decision of like, okay, this is real. I know it's real, and I'm not going to like dick around anymore. Like I know it's real, and I'm really going to start treating it as such. I'm not going to doubt myself. I'm not going to second guess my intuition. I'm not going to question the dreams that I get, or the messages that I'm very clearly seeing through all these synchronicities and stuff like that. Like, I'm just not going to question it anymore. I'm going to take it and I'm going to work with it. And that decision has radically changed my life for the better. But like you said, it is also a responsibility of like, okay, you're going to deal with the intensity of it too. You can't really hide.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think like the phrasing that came to mind is like you put a target on your back, but that's not the right phrasing. But you're really putting yourself out there, right? You're like saying, this is the work I'm doing. This is who I am. Mm-hmm. And that is a vulnerable thing to do. And it can be a scary thing to do. Right. Totally. Like when I have this podcast called You Me Empathy, and like, people, I won't, not listeners, but like people in my own life have like used that against me and said like, what are you, like, you didn't say this, you're the empathy person, right? Like, and it's just like, so like, the world kind of twists it against you and but you just have to believe in the work you're doing and why it's important for you and others. And you kind of have to let the other stuff go a little bit.
Yeah. Growing up, without religion and getting some kind of, negative beliefs around, what is the word I'm looking for? Organized religion. Mm-hmm. When I find myself arriving at certain spiritual truths, like the concept of faith, I've struggled a lot with like, can I use that word? Can I say that? It's so loaded, but like for me, my journey so far has been deepening and a consistent like expansion of and integration of my own faith in what I believe in terms of the way the universe works, in terms of the way spirit works, or whatever you want to call it. I use the words a lot interchangeably. And as far as, how it kind of ties into my job as a therapist, I want people to find that for themselves, whatever that is for them. Like if you are a part of a particular religion, like, and that's important to you and you really align with those beliefs and those values, like, then it's about integrating and alignment with that. I'm not, my version of it is mine. But I think that there's value in having spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical integration. Like that to me is health. That is healing. So whatever that looks like for you, and a lot of people have no idea what they believe in. They don't know. So there's lots of conditioning that they kind of have to sift through. I mean, we all have to sift through it, but like people who are like, well, I don't really believe in any of these religions, or I don't have any sort of spiritual guidance. I think that, it's fine if you don't, but you do have a belief system. We all have a belief system, and that's what's actually helping you make decisions every day. but it's unconscious. So for me, it's like how I work with this is trying to help people uncover that for themselves and find more integrity with living in that truth, whatever their version is.
Yeah. And, I think that's so important. I would even argue that, there are people in the world who, would say that they, are, maybe they're ascribed to a certain organized religion. And maybe this is my own sort of baggage and bias toward organized religion because I was raised in it and left it. But I have this sense for some people, not all, that there isn't space for what you're talking about. There isn't space. There's like a rigidity in the way that they look at the world. And so there's no space for the beauty of the sort of the opening and the mystery and the wonder that, that we're talking about here. There's like a rigidity to it. It doesn't allow for it. And I feel like,
I agree.
I don't know, that feels problematic to me. And maybe that's just my bias, but
I agree. Speaking as Inertia, the human, not the therapist, like I totally agree with you. And, I have a lot of opinions about that and like why that is, I think that's intentional. I think there's a lot of power and, like power beyond what we can even sometimes fathom when we're plugged into, when we have a direct connection with our own source, our own concept of the organizing force or infinite power potential. Like, again, you could call it whatever you want, but there is something, there is something working here. And it's not just us, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I totally hear you. The rigidity that keeps people from actually feeling that connection, knowing that connection, being okay with the unknown and not being, I think, religion, a lot of religions, at least that I'm aware of, they work or the foundation of them is built on a fear consciousness. It's built on, you should be afraid of source. You should be afraid of magic or, I use the word magic. I know that's kind of a loaded word, but, the mystery, of life or the divine experiences, we should be in reverence to them and at the same time fear them. And I don't know that that's helpful.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you for coming halfway there with me. I do. And I want to say to the listeners, I don't have any, I'm not saying you should believe what you want to believe. I don't, and I'm not trying to disparage your religion. I just believe in the importance of the wonder and the mystery and the curiosity and and not and for all of it, for our whole selves, for our whole self-actualization and awareness, like that stuff for me has been so important. So I don't know if you're listening to this and you are in a space where you do feel like you are in this, I don't know, rigid anti-curiosity space, like, I don't know, think about it. That's all. I still love you.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you. Like, again, I hope that people find their, like, really tune into, like, is this true for me? Do I really believe this thing? Not the totality of, let's say, a religious practice, but, these moments of, there's many different beliefs, right? Like there's many different beliefs. Do I really align with that? And I think, as far as the rigidity, I don't actually, I'm not an expert on religion, so I don't want to speak like I know.
Well, I am, so I'm just kidding.
Like I do think that there's an underlying spiritual truth that supersedes the interpretation of those truths. Right. It's kind of like what we were saying before. Like if I go towards the like figuring it out thing, like it removes something. It is rigid. And I think that a lot of spiritual texts are offering a very similar truth. as far as connecting with a higher power, and how we can do that and what that might offer us, I think there's a lot of similarity there.
Yeah.
But the rigidity feels like it comes in when we, listen to the fear, I think.
I think the fear, I think anxiety, I think, inability to allow for, what we were talking about at the beginning, the feelings and the discomfort, like that's where, I think in my mind, it goes astray. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, that was, enlightening. Yeah. Tell the listeners, Inertia, a little bit about like some of the work you do, because you're a therapist, but you're also bringing some of this stuff that we're talking about into the mix, which is so cool. Like, can you tell listeners about like some of your programs, some of your offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. That was like a big important thing for me as far as becoming a therapist. I had a clear vision of like, I want to do this work that includes the body and includes space for spirituality in whatever way that looks, and especially for folks who are maybe more aligned like me or you that are interested in maybe non-traditional ways, of connecting. So, so in terms of my therapy practice, I do work with folks individually. I'm in the process of studying to pass my licensure exam, which is coming up very soon. And then I'm going to be kind of revamping my offerings. But I also have a coaching business currently that is where I offer some of the groups, which get to be a little bit more flexible. So the groups that I have are for understanding and studying the chakra system. So I have a chakra basics program, which kind of gives you an introduction, foundations, like what you need to know. And I come from a perspective of like, I'm going to teach you more about the psychology aspect of it, as opposed to stuff that you can pretty much easily Google, like you can Google the chakras and find out like the color, the placement, and some of the basic concepts, you can kind of get that information easily. But I try to weave in like, okay, well, what do you do with this in a practical way? Like, how do you understand how to work with the root chakra in a very practical day-to-day way? How do you know when you're off, That's that program. And then I have a kind of more intensive program called the Spiritual Detox Program, which is also based on the chakra system. And that's a cleansing, clearing kind of thing. We go, next level with processing in that course. And then I have a course called Embodied Resilience, which is based on many different kind of theoretical and practical elements to getting your body regulated. So again, I'm a somatic psychotherapist, so I'm looking at how neuroscience is aligning with, the body, they're like slowly catching up. They're like, oh yeah, maybe we should take consideration of how the body's doing in this whole like anxiety process or depression process. What's happening with the body? Yeah. So there are many ways in which we can help support our system, not just the body, but the whole system, to feel more present, more resilient, have more capacity. And so that course is really teaching folks kind of a little bit of the science behind it, because again, we do need to understand, right? Our brain needs to hold on to the information to make sense of it. And then have a practical exercise. And all the exercises that I offer, I try to make things like really accessible. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Sounds amazing.
I have a podcast.
You have a podcast?
Yeah. I have a podcast called Healing is Mutual.
Oh, wow. I love that. What a good name that is.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I just started that. I'm still kind of figuring out what it wants to be, but yeah, those are the things that I'm doing.
Amazing. Well, listeners, we'll plug your website and all that stuff in a second. We always wrap up the show, Inertia, talking about empathy heroes. So folks in our lives who are wonderful, empathetic, compassionate, feely humans. They could also be actually characters from stories we love or movies or whatever. I'm going to go first, name my empathy heroes this week first to give you a moment to think about yours. So, I haven't announced this yet, and this, by the time this episode comes out, I will have. So I'm just going to name them. My empathy heroes this week are Austin and Amy from NAMI, Orange County, and NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Great organization. Basically Austin and Amy reached out to me to see if I'd be curious to co-host a podcast for them targeted to a younger audience, 16 to 24. And I was flattered. I felt like, I felt very seen. I felt like, they saw me and sort of valued my experience in podcasting and the work that I do with this podcast and other things and Feely Human and I said yes, and it's going to be a short run podcast. The name at this point we don't know what it's going to be called. We're still working that out, but it's going to be a short run podcast through December, and I'm I don't know if I have the time or energy to really do it. Of course, I'm going to do it and make it happen, but I'm excited. I'm overwhelmed by it. It's going to be a good opportunity for me, and I'm just grateful that Austin and Amy thought of me. It just felt really nice, and so I wanted to call out them for that.
Awesome. I love this question. I really love this question. I had so many people come to mind, and that just made me really happy.
That's nice.
Yeah. So grateful for so many people in my life. As I mentioned, I'm going through a breakup of sorts, and there's been so many beautiful people to show up and like hold space for me in this way. I guess the first person that comes to mind is my friend Courtney McKinney. They live far away. Well, not super far away from me, but in another city. And, they just hold a lot of space for me every day, we talk all day. So, really grateful for them. And as maybe complicated as this answer is, I also want to name my ex-partner, Moses. Yeah, they are very empathetic and hold space too in this way. There's like so many names. There's so many names coming up for me. So all my friends. But definitely,
it's good to have empathetic friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
And congratulations on this opportunity. I know what it's like when you're like, it's exciting and also overwhelming, and I don't know if I actually have time, but so cool.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because a part of like the equation that went into like me saying yes was that my partner, Jessica, she's in a doctorate program. And so she just started it, and so she's tremendously busy. So I thought, hey, I can do this for the next few months and we can be super busy together, so it kind of aligned in that way.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Inertia, where can the Feely humans out there sign up for your offerings, learn more about you, and connect with you? Yeah,
they can find me I have a website. It's my first and last name, which is Inertia DeWitt, INERTIADEWITT, InertiaDeWitt.com. And on Instagram, the same thing, Inertia DeWitt. Those are the places I hang out.
Awesome. Well, listeners, those links will be in the show notes for this episode. Inertia, thank you for being a part of Yumi Empathy.
Thank you so much, Nan. This has been really awesome. I feel really grateful to have shared the morning with you.
Oh, likewise, my friend. And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's Yumi Empathy.
La, la, la. la.